Your Show of Shows will forever be considered an example of classic television comedy, even though it was television in its rawest form. Credit some of its success to the fact that it was done one take live, but credit much of its success to this evening's guest on Chicago Tonight with John Calloway. This evening on Chicago Tonight, comedian Sid Caesar, and for host John Calloway, Bruce Dumont.
Good evening and welcome to Chicago Tonight. It is only fitting that we come to you live this evening and not through the magic of videotape. That's because our guest this evening realized most of his success live on stage, and almost unheard of today, live on television. For during the early 1950s, Sid Caesar and co-stars Imogene Coca, Howard Morris, and Carl Reiner performed what would have to be considered today as comedy magic. Sid Caesar would go on to win 7 Emmy Awards and a place in the Television Academy Hall of Fame. And when you consider he once claimed a stable of writers, the likes of Woody Allen, Neil Simon, and Mel Brooks, it's no wonder students at Lewis University in Romeoville today welcome Sid Caesar as the host of a workshop lecture on the art of comedy.
Sid Caesar, to me, epitomizes the beginning of comedy, the basic comedy.
He was involved in the live theater back when he did Your Show of Shows, and that was when comedy was very difficult to do because you could get a laugh, you couldn't. And Sid Caesar topped it. He was the king.
In the workshop, Caesar recalled the glorious and grueling years of Your Show of Shows.
We had no social life at all because we wrote from 10 o'clock in the morning till 6, 7 o'clock at night, and by Wednesday night, if it wasn't finished, we wrote till 1 or 2 in the morning. And it's amazing that when you write something around 11:30, 12 o'clock at night, it gets funny. And by 1 o'clock in the morning, it's hilarious. And when you come in the next morning, you say, who wrote this?
Your good conduct medal is on crooked. I'll straighten it for you.
I remember I used to make a rule where I'd say for a half an hour before the show, I would lay down in my room and just relax and try to go over everything in my mind. And Mel Brooks would whisper through the keyhole, don't forget to do this, don't forget to... And it actually happened, you know, don't forget to put that on, don't forget to put it, and when you walk over, don't forget, I said, will you leave me alone for a second, please?
We are pleased to welcome to Chicago Tonight Sid Caesar, who is currently appearing at the Rialto Square Theater in Joliet. Performances tomorrow night, 6 and 9 p.m. And Mr. Caesar, we thank you very much for joining us this evening. What do the students want to ask?
Well, they want to ask, what is live comedy? They don't know what live comedy is. And they want to know, how do you become a comedian? What do you do to become a comedian? And I say, make it your own. Pick a subject, pick something that you know, pick something that you can relate to, and also just don't try to do stand-up. You know, stand-up is fine, but it's unfortunately today it's when you go to a comedy store, and there's some brilliant minds out there, truly, but it's one stand-up after another stand-up after another stand-up. All you have to do is get a couple of chairs and a table. You have a sketch, and you can relate to somebody, and you can make it. You can branch out. You can broaden. It doesn't have to be just stand-up comedy. It can be character comedy. It can be improvisation. It can be anything you want. But comedy should be broadened out. There's pantomime to be done. There's double talk to be done. There are so many things, so many areas of comedy that are not covered today, unfortunately. And in live, I would say 95% of the people in the United States today don't see any live entertainment. And that's a shame, because they think everything comes in a little package, and it's all tied in a little bow. You don't even have to laugh anymore. I mean, they laugh for you. They tell you when to laugh. And this, to me, is insulting.
Well, of the current crop of comics, Jay Leno was recently quoted in Newsweek magazine saying that he wants to turn down the opportunity to do a lot of television because he likes his current title as the king of the club, so he can stay in touch with people in his audience and also, frankly, not wear out the act too quickly.
Well, it's not only that, of course, because television eats up comedy very fast. But there are too many people between the performer and the audience today. There's the producer who says, well, no, we'll do it this way. No, we'll do it that way. And before your performance gets to the audience, it's cut, it's sweetened, it's done. Your timing means nothing, because they can change your timing in the editing. And and there's a terrible thing that's missing. There's a whole dimension that's missing. It's the live aspect. The live aspect is you can make a mistake. A cue can go wrong, a prop doesn't work, or somebody goes up in their lines. And they have programs today about bloopers and bleepers and bloppers and bloopers. So let's see it for real. Let's not just let's not just see programs of that. Let's see it for real. And that adds an extra dimension that you can make a mistake, that something can happen. And how do you cover it up? How do you fix it? How do you do it? Right on the air.
When did you first notice that the producers and the editors were starting to move into television?
Tape. When tape came in, then they found they could play. And once you find to give them some room to play, we can cut here. Why don't we cut this here? No, then you get 14. No, let us cut it there. No, we can cut it over here. Let's cut it over there. Let's make it this way. Let's have the reverse angle. We'll get this. Once you give, if you get a box of chocolates and you got just chocolate, you eat the chocolate. But if you have bum-bums and bip-bips and boop-bips and bleep-bleeps and blop-blips, it's all chocolate. But it's all different, and you lose the taste. You lose your taste, and you have too much. It's too much to pick from.
Did any of that control, however, creep into television prior to the invention of tape? I mean, for instance, after a particular program, whether it was your show of shows or Caesar's Hour, did anyone ever come into you a week later and say, the ratings last week weren't very good, and maybe we shouldn't do The Professor again this week, let's do something else? I mean, when did they start to try to fine-tune you?
When I started to fine-tune was, as I said, when tape came in. When tape came in, there were two things that started, to my feeling, started to ruin television. One was tape, which is fine, and it's great, it's wonderful for syndication and doing this.
Throw it out.
And also is the remote control. If it's not blowing up, and if it's not exploding, if it's not in the air or flying and smashing up, somebody saying, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, bing, bing, you're off, click, 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 they go through all the stations, boom, 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 boom. You have about 2-3 seconds to get on. And this is wrong, because people have no patience today. They forgot about patience. It takes time to build something. It takes time to build a character. It takes time to get the humor from the character. Don't just tell jokes and jokes and jokes and jokes. Fine, and I'm not putting them down, but I'm saying there's room for other types of comedy. There's room for make the audience work. Let's see pantomime come back a little bit. Let's see other things,
When you're talking to students, do they ever ask you questions about how to deal with success? Because several years ago in your highly publicized autobiography, you talked about the rise and fall of Sid Caesar.
Yes, because it was too much too soon. I mean, and I don't blame it on anybody but myself. I mean, I started to drink and I started to take sleeping pills because I didn't like me. I didn't like me very much, and that's why I drank, to get away from me. And I took pills to get away from me because I didn't like me. And it was something, it's not any one thing. There's never any one thing. It's a combination of things that make you do things. And I reached the combination of being terribly down on myself in Regina, Saskatchewan, where I was doing a play called Last of the Red Hot Lovers, which was Neil Simon's play. And I couldn't remember my name. I couldn't remember a line. And I looked at myself in the mirror. I remember going after the first act and looking in the mirror and saying, Sid, you want to live or you want to die? It's as simple as that. And I meant it. And I opted for life. And I knew what was going to happen. I knew the work it would take. But I wanted it because I wanted to live. I wanted to perform. I wanted to live. And from then on, I started to build my self-esteem. I started to like myself. In fact, I'm writing another book now called How to Make Friends with Yourself. Because the biggest sickness we have today in the world is procrastination. I'm going to do this tomorrow, and the first thing after breakfast, I'm going to hit this after lunch. And as soon as lunch is over, I'm going to hit this. As soon as tomorrow comes in, I'll get this on the weekend. I'll start to work with it on the weekend, and as soon as with the weekend, I'm going to, definitely at the beginning of the year, I'm going to hit this. So you never get to do it. And you start to hate yourself. You start to not like yourself. And from that, you start self-punishment. And how do you punish yourself? Through your pleasures. Food is a pleasure. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you're hungry and you sit down to a marvelous meal, boy, that's a pleasure. But then you start to say, I'll have a little of this, then I'll have that. No, I won't eat that. No, I'll have this. I'll have that. No, I just eat half of that, and then I'll eat that. No, I'll eat the whole thing, and I won't eat it tomorrow. And I'll have it tomorrow. And I'll just have it today, and I'll just have it tomorrow, and I'll have it again. And food becomes a punishment. Food becomes a hassle. So you take away your pleasures, and all of a sudden, to have a drink or two, that's fine. If you can control it, there's nothing against that, if you have a drink or two. But once that starts to take over, then it becomes punishment. Drinking is punishment.
You mentioned Neil Simon just a few moments ago. Neil Simon, Mel Brooks, Larry Gelbart, Carl Reiner, Woody Allen were all part of the Sid Caesar stable during the early days.
Right.
In an interview with John Calloway a couple of years ago, you mentioned that at various points in the career, you pushed them away. Again, when you fell victim to alcohol and pills, you were pushing them away. You didn't want them to be friends, and you said to John during that interview that you kind of need them now, and you'd like to try to bring them back. Have you been successful at trying to bring them back?
No, once you push people away, you push them away.
But when they read the book, when those let's say 5 or 6 people read the book, and perhaps they learned of specific pain that they weren't aware of during the time they were having a relationship with you on a daily basis, did any one of them pick up the phone and say, Sid, I didn't realize that? Was there any humanity as a result of that book?
I got a very beautiful letter from Doc Simon, and I got a beautiful letter from Mike Stewart, and I got a wonderful letter from Carl Reiner, who really, and Larry Gelbart, who really came and said, gee, we didn't know you were going through this. And but that has nothing to do with life now. Life now is what I'm enjoying now. You see, my life now is not just to come back. My life is to function, because once you almost lose something that's very precious to you, and you get a chance to get it back, that's what real joy is, appreciation. Real joy is appreciation, because I can enjoy life now. Really enjoy life, because I enjoy myself enjoying myself. I stand back and I say, Sid, enjoy that. Appreciate that. This is all gravy. This is all wonderful. Appreciate that, and that is real, truly joy. Because once you lick something, it's never licked, but once you've said, hey, I'm doing it, you're proud of yourself, and you feel good about yourself, and you like yourself. And that, again, the cycle, instead of going down, starts to go up, and you start to feel better about yourself. And when you start to feel better about yourself, you start to feel better about people, and you start to like people, and that's why I do seminars, that's why I do lectures now.
When did you start to say that to yourself? Again, May 22nd, 1978 was the bottom.
Yeah.
You hit bottom in Saskatchewan that night.
Right.
When were you able to say what you just said, that, hey, we can go on and we're going to do it? When I say we, I mean...
Myself and I.
And also your wife, Flo.
But
without her, you wouldn't be here.
Absolutely. That's the truth. But it takes time till you get to that. Nothing happens in a flash. Everything is bang, oh, there's a revelation. It takes time. It takes time. It takes time. When I started to talk to myself, as I do every morning, I went to a tape recorder. I said, Sid, this is Sidney talking to you. Let's talk. And I talk whatever about the top of my head. But I try to talk positive. And that started in Paris. I was doing a picture with Peter Sellers. And I was in Paris for 6 months. And I got up and I talked to myself and I said to myself at that time, Sid, we're going to be in Paris for 6 months. Now, if you don't have a good time, I'm not going to have a good time. And if I don't have a good time, you're not going to have a good time. So what do you say we make friends? And what do you say we help each other out? Because you're at least 2 people. René Descartes said, I think, therefore I am. I don't say that. I say, I am what I think I am. You are what you think you are. If you like yourself, you'll take care of yourself. You'll do things for yourself. You'll go out of your way. If you have a pain, sometimes you'll go, it'll go away, it'll go away. No, go in, take care of it. See what it is. Take care of yourself. When I work out now, I work out every morning. I watch my diet, no fat, no salt, no sugar, and I'm proud of that. And I work out every morning. I really work out. I swim, or I walk, and then I do a workout. And then my day starts, and I have a good breakfast, and my life is something that I feel proud of today.
Did you ever wake up and wonder if you were going to be funny that day? If you had lost your ability to make other people laugh?
No, that doesn't come into it. Because of the drinking, you have to be drunk to be funny. No. That has nothing to do with it. But when you had an opportunity to either replay in your mind a performance, or later on when you could perhaps watch a replay of it, did you know when you were off, when you were critiquing yourself? Oh, when I saw myself, and I said, when I saw when I was drinking, and I saw it started to take effect, I saw that the timing was off, and I saw this was off.
And other people were still telling you that you were great.
Yeah, but I could see it. And I could see it, and once I saw it, I said, and there was nothing I could do about it. But now, I look at myself and I say, I can do that better. But I don't put myself down. I don't say it. I said, that's a was. See, I have a new philosophy about, Einstein, and my two hobbies are history and physics. And when reading Einstein one time, he said, if you wanted to put the special theory of relativity in one sentence, it would be one man's now is another man's then. And that struck me, and I said, you know how fast a now is? It travels with the speed of light. If somebody says you're going to do it now, it can't be done. Before he gets it's over. So if you have a wonderful now, say you have a great now, you're having a marvelous now, no matter how much you want to hang on to that now, it's going to be a was. And if you have a bad now, you're going to have a bad was.
You mentioned...
But let me just finish this.
I'm sorry.
You're going to have a bad was. But learn from that bad was. Don't carry it around with you. Don't beat yourself with that bad was, because you can change it in the gonna be, which comes right before the new now. Because that's what time is. Time is motion. That's what time is. If everything stopped, there would be no time, right? So if you have a now, if you have a bad now, you're going to have a bad was. But learn from that was, then throw it away. And then change it in the gonna be, and you come into the new now fresh. And that truly is the way I run my life now. If I have something bad that happens to me, I say, fine, I learned from it. Don't do that again, Sid. Don't get in that situation again. But then don't carry it around with you, because they decay into shoulda, couldas. I should, I could, if only, and if I did.
That'll drive you crazy.
And you beat yourself with it. And the nows are passing you by, because they don't stop.
Sid Caesar is our guest. We're going to take your telephone calls when we continue. Don't go away. We continue now with Sid Caesar, who is in town at the Rialto Square Theater in Joliet, with performances tomorrow evening at 6 and 9 p.m., and seats are still available, and I'll be out there tomorrow night to enjoy your performance, and we understand we have callers on the line, so let's go to them right now. Good evening. You're on the air with Sid Caesar.
I'm 40 years old. I'm a recovering alcoholic. I stopped drinking about 7 years ago. And I am starting to live in the now. I'm learning to realize what it means when they say that yesterday's history and tomorrow's a mystery. However, I am having difficulty trying to plan for a future. I have no idea which way I should go. I don't have any big talent or big professional background, and I really don't know. I don't know. I just can't come up with a concept of what to do with the rest of my life.
But you don't have to worry about that. The main thing is to enjoy it. Whatever it is, try to enjoy it. Try to make the best of it. Because if you try to look for something that's out of your reach, or to try to look for something that's way out, I'm not looking to be at the top of the world again. I really am not. All I want to do is function. Just to be able to function, to talk to people, to be with people. Enjoy your life. Truly. Don't waste it. Enough was wasted on it when you were drinking. That was self-punishment by far. Now you can enjoy your life. Whatever happens. My God, enjoy it. Appreciate the life that you have. If you wake up in the morning and you're not in pain and you're not bleeding, my God, you're ahead of the game. Think of the people that are in that situation. That's hard.
This caller is trying to, I think, write the end to his life script. When you were in your 20s, when you were making $1 million a year, you were on a fast track. Everybody knows that. Did you have the closing scene of your life in your mind? Did you know where it was going to go?
No, I thought it was going to go on forever, just like that. You know, just going to go on like that. I had no idea. I had no
You
experience.
never failed.
But that's right. I'd never failed. And that was the wrong thing, because I didn't know what, if you don't know what down is, you don't know what up is. And you have to understand that, because you mustn't take life for granted. It's too precious. It truly is. Enjoy what you have. Appreciate what you have. It's one time around. Enjoy it and appreciate it.
Let's take another call. Good evening. You're on the air with Sid Caesar.
Hi, Sid.
Hi.
I wanted to tell you I watched all your stuff on Showtime lately on the cable, and I still think you're the best.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
My pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay. I'd like to get back to a comment that you made a little bit earlier. You talked about Albert Einstein. And Albert Einstein is a very, very important figure in your life personally. Tell us that
Yes,
story.
indeed. It was one time I was in rehearsal, and we were a little behind, and I was trying to push the rehearsal faster and faster. And my secretary walked in and said, "Dr. Einstein is on the phone." I said, "Who?" She said, "Dr. Albert Einstein's on the phone."
Vinny Einstein, right?
I said, all right, and I looked at the writers and I said, "It's all right, the joke is over, because, you know, we got a lot of work to do." And my secretary said, "No, Dr. Einstein's on the phone, wants to talk to you." And I said, "He doesn't know I'm alive. I mean, Dr. Einstein?" She said, "No, he's on the phone." So I went up and I went to the phone, and sure enough, Helen Dukas was on the phone, and she said, "Dr. Einstein would like to speak to you." And I said, "When? How? Where?" You know. She said, "Made an appointment at 12 Mercer Street in Princeton." And I told my secretary right away as I hung up, I said, "Go out and get me every book on relativity, because I got a bone up on it over the weekend." And I remember I was looking forward to seeing him, and unfortunately he passed away before I could see him. And it was a great disappointment to me, because I would just sit at his feet and listen to what he had to say, because he was my hero. And about a year or so later, I was giving a lecture in Columbia University, and I was walking down the hall, and a little man came up to me and said, "Pardon me, you're Sid Caesar, aren't you?" And I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "I'm Robert Oppenheimer." I said, "Robert Oppenheimer?" "Yes." He said, "Albert talked a lot about you." I said, "He did?" He said, "Yes." He said he had solved the human equation. I mean, he solved the physical equation, EMC square. He wanted to talk to you about the human equation, about how people react. And I said, "Albert Einstein knew about me?" He said, "Yes, he loved you." And that to me was the epitome of my life.
And as a young boy, he was your hero.
Oh my God, yes. He was Albert Einstein, wow, there was nobody greater than that, my God. I mean, to be able to think and change the entire world view of, it was all Isaac Newton from before that. René Descartes and Isaac Newton, that was it. Mm-hmm. And he came along with a whole new, I mean, special relativity and the general relativity. Mm-hmm. I mean, just the thought of being able to think like that.
Hero worship making the full circle. Let's take another call. Good evening, you're on the air with Sid Caesar.
I think Sid Caesar is perhaps one of the greatest, if not the greatest, sketch comedians in the world. I was wondering if Sid could comment on, it's my observation that the good sketch comedians sometimes find a difficulty in the transition in acting in motion pictures. I wonder if Sid can comment on that.
Well, no, I found the acting I just recently did a Steven Spielberg Amazing Stories, and to me acting is part of it, because I feel it. And I did a thing at the Hallmark Hall of Fame where about Love Is Never Silent, where I played the part of a pawnbroker who was a friend of this little girl who was a child of two parents who were deaf mutes. And I knew what it was all about, because I had a man who worked for me for 12 years who was a deaf mute, and I knew a little bit about sign language, and I understood the problem, and I really, acting and sketching, you know, let me give you a simile. If you go to an aquacade and you see these clowns who dive off very, very high diving boards, and they do all kinds of matriculations coming down, and when they hit that water, that's hard. So if you want to be a clown diver, you have to be a very good diver, because to make fun of a diver, when you hit the water, you hit the water the same way. It's the same thing in a sketch or in a dramatic play. You hit the audience in the same way. It's the same thing. You have to be a good diver, you have to be a good actor to be a good sketch comedian.
Thank you for your call. Let's take one more. Good evening. You're on the air with Sid Caesar.
Yes, it's a pleasure talking to you tonight, Mr. Caesar. And I was just wondering what you thought about Saturday Night Live in the mid-'70s as compared to your show of shows. Thank you.
What was that?
Saturday Night Live in its heyday compared
Saturday
to
Night Live. Oh, Saturday Night Live.
shows in its heyday.
Saturday Night Live was a great show. I mean, they had great, look who came out of it. Great comedians came out of it. But I was jealous in those days. I was sick in those days. So I was very jealous, and I hated them. I couldn't look at them. But they were great shows, and they still are. I mean, they're still on the air.
What should one expect if they go to the Rialto Square Theater in Joliet tomorrow night?
Well, I tell the truth, and that to me is the best comedy. Comedy about truth is exaggerate the truth with a little curlicue on the end. And then people understand because they relate to what you're talking about. They understand, they feel what you're talking about because it is the truth. And the truth never fails because you don't have to do topical humor, you do things about what happens to people every day.
Well, I wish we had time. We've got less than a minute left, so we can't tell the story. Maybe you'll tell it at some point. You in the interview with John, you did a great story about the tire, because you have always been able to humanize objects, and
yes.
We will invite you back, and we want to hear that story again. It's great. Sid Caesar, it is indeed a pleasure to have met you this evening, and I'm Bruce Dumont sitting in for John Calloway. Again, our guest this evening is Sid Caesar. He will be in town on the Joliet, actually, tomorrow evening at 6 and 9 p.m., and Monday, John will be here, and his special guest will be Fred Friendly, the former president of CBS News. Have yourself a very nice weekend. Good night.